Hello there. In this video we're going to be designing our own molds, injecting some silicone, and creating our own jigs. So without further ado, let's get into the design. For the design I'll be using Fusion 360, and since I don't have any particular model in mind, and since I wanted to go all original, I just decided to quickly sketch up and make my own rubber worm to cast the mold off of. But alternatively, you could just skip this step and import any bait model you want if you already have one. Once you have the model you want, you can start by creating a new component and sketching a rectangular box a little larger than the size of your model. And again, once sketched, you'll want to extrude it to encase the full size of the bait. Next, I'll use the combine command, selecting the box as the target body and the bait model as the tool body, using the cut operation to leave the impression of the bait behind. Then, in order to actually get the bait out of the mold, we'll need to cut it in half, and to do so I'll use the split command, selecting the XY plane as our splitting tool. This will cut it right down the middle, and as we can see, the impression of our bait is left behind. In order to help line the mold up, since it's now in two parts, I'll add some reference points by sketching a small stub on one half. I will then construct a mid-plane by selecting the two sides of the box, and using this plane to mirror the stub identically to the other side. I will then work on the other half of the box, adding holes at the same point the stubs are at for them to insert into, and again I'll use the mid-plane to mirror this hole to the other side identically. This will leave us with two reference points to help us line up the mold and snap it together once printed. I'll then sketch a hole and cut it straight down the middle in order to pour in our silicone. I'll also sketch out a small channel on the side, and this will help any air escape. This will leave us with a box in two halves with the impression of our bait, two reference points to help line the halves up, a hole to pour our silicone, and a channel to let any air escape. I'll then print the mold out of PLA at 0.1 millimeters, and this is what the mold impression looks like. Using our two reference points, we can line the halves up, snap it, and then clamp it together. Instead of mixing up hot molten plastic with less than desirable fumes, I'll be mixing up some non-toxic silicone I had left over from another project. Here I'm using Shore A30 silicone, but I will say, looking back, if I wasn't trying to use this up, I probably would have bought something a little softer since I found 30A to be just a bit too hard. I then got a little overzealous with the injection and made quite a mess, but I'll just wipe it up and come back in a few hours once it's cured. Opening up the mold, we can see that the shape of our model was indeed captured, but I do have a little bit of trimming to do. First impressions of our first attempt. I will say I think the tail was just a little bit of a disappointment. I think I made it too thick for the hardness of our silicone, and I don't think we'll get the action that I was going after. But we can rig it up, throw it in the water, and indeed confirm that tail is not jiggling the way I was hoping. So I went back to our model and I made the tail a little bit bigger and a little bit thinner, and I figured since it's attempt 2, why not make 2 of them? So I mixed up a little bit more silicone and went ahead and made a mess again. Breaking open the first mold, looks like it turned out as desired. However, the second mold looked like there was a little bit of an air pocket on the tail, but I think it'll still work. comparing the first iteration with the second, I have a lot more confidence that the tail in the second one is going to give us the kind of action we're after. And indeed, sticking it in the water, we were able to actually get the tail to jiggle and move a little bit better on the second attempt. In all, we were able to design our own mold, inject some silicone, and create our own jig. If you're interested, I'll throw a link in the description to the model below. And with that said, thank you for watching.